Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala nabiyyil kareem wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. We begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asking Allah to send His peace and blessings upon the final Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and all those who follow his way with righteousness until the last day. So today I have chosen a topic which is very, very important for the times we're living in, and I hope we have enough time to complete the topic. If not, inshallah, I will split this over 2 Jum'ahs. The topic I've chosen is to discuss our usage of social media in light of Surah Al-Hujarat. And to begin, I just want to explain why I've chosen social media and why I've chosen this specific surah. Right? So why social media? Social media, for those who are unaware, it refers to any technological app or website that's used for socializing, that's used for communication. Right? So it refers to Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google+, WhatsApp. All of this is considered social media. And it can be very tempting to pass a fatwa. A lot of people want a blanket fatwa. They'll come up to you and ask, is social media haram? Is Facebook haram? And it's really not appropriate to pass a blanket fatwa on an entire concept like this. Because these are tools. And like any other tool, it can be used for halal or haram. It can be used for good or bad. So you cannot take a tool, you cannot take a knife or a gun or a spade and just say this is haram because someone uses it for haram. That's not how fiqh works. Right? In fiqh, we have a principle that's agreed upon by all the madhabs, which governs our usage of worldly things. And that principle in Arabic, it's called al-ibahatul asliyah, which translates into English as the original ruling on anything is halal, is mubah, is permissibility. Right? This is a principle agreed upon by the majority of scholars of fiqh across all madhabs. Which means when there's something new of this world, which we do not have a direct verse or hadith about, it is assumed to be halal unless there is evidence that it is haram. So the same will apply to social media. That in of itself, it is a halal tool. It can be used for haram, there's no doubt about that. There are people who use their social media for immorality, for zina, for cheating, for scamming, for backbiting, for slander. But there are also people who use it to stay connected with family and friends on the other end of the world. There's nothing haram about that. There are people who use it for business. There's nothing haram about that. And there are people who use it for da'wah. There is definitely nothing wrong about that. So social media has become a part of human life. Wherever you go in the world, whichever home you visit, you will find members of that home who are using some form of social media or the other. So what we really need is not a fatwa, is it halal or haram? What we need are guidelines on how to use it in a way that is acceptable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because this is really what Islam came to teach us. Islam did not come to teach us that everything is haram or everything needs a fatwa. No, Islam came to teach us that for most of the things in this world, there are guidelines on how to keep its usage halal. If you own a car, you can use that car to go to a casino, or you can use that car to go to a masjid. It doesn't make the car halal or haram. It is your usage that matters. And that's what we're going to look at today. We are going to look at a very important surah of the Quran. And we are going to take principles from this surah and apply it to our usage of social media and beyond. So that when you are online, when you are on Facebook, when you are on YouTube, when you are on WhatsApp, you will govern your usage according to the principles taught in the surah. And the surah I have chosen for this specific discussion is Surah Al-Hujarat, the 49th surah in the Quran. Now, you may wonder, there's 114 surahs in the Quran. Why this surah specifically? To answer that question, just very brief, a background about the surah. Surah Al-Hujarat is a Medinan surah. And the surahs revealed in Medina were revealed to teach fiqh and akhlaq and the guidance, the guidelines for society. And Surah Al-Hujarat specifically was revealed to teach the Sahaba how to interact with each other, how to socialize in a way that is acceptable. And so, in many of the books of tafsir, this surah is also referred to by a different name, Surah Al-Akhlaq, the surah about good character and good manners. Because in this surah, which is made up of only 18 verses, you will find guidelines for every form of socialization. Every aspect of socializing in your life, you will find guidelines for it in Surah Al-Hujarat. And this is why I believe it is very important that every Muslim home must study Surah Al-Hujarat. It is not enough to attend a Jummah lecture on the surah. You need to take the surah home. You need to sit and read it with its translation with your families and discuss its meanings with your families and how you can apply it to your lives. Because this surah is crucial for solving many of the social problems of the ummah. And that includes the problems we have when it comes to social media. So I'm going to take just 5 verses from the surah. There are actually 18 verses in total. And I hope afterwards when you go home, you will open the surah and read the full 18 verses with the translation and reflect on them. But specifically, I believe that there are 5 verses here which are crucial when it comes to social media, based on the problems I'm seeing as of late. Just to give you an idea, recently I went through many of the South African Facebook groups, right? Reading the kind of comments and discussions that take place. And based on what I've seen in those discussions, I've realized that these 5 verses in particular, we need to discuss with our communities. Our people need to know about these 5 verses, and we need to apply it on how we use social media, because there are a lot of things that we are doing wrong. So let's start off with verse number 6. And verse number 6 applies again to every bit of socializing in our life. What I want to talk about is application to message sharing platforms like WhatsApp. Right? In verse number 6, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe. So Allah is talking to each of us directly. He's about to give a command to each of us directly, because without doubt each of us here are from those who believe. O you who believe, in ja'akum fasiqum binaba'in fatabayyanu. If someone who is sinful comes to you with information about someone else, verify it. Verify it. It's a command in the Quran. أَن تُصِيبُوا قَوْمًا بِجَهَالَةٍ فَتُصْبِحُوا عَلَى مَا فَعَلْتُمْ نَادِمِينَ. If you don't verify it, you may harm someone ignorantly and regret it tomorrow. Again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us in Surah Hujarat, O believers, if someone brings you information about somebody else, verify it. Because if you don't verify it, you could harm people in ignorance, and you may regret it tomorrow. I want us to think about this verse and the kind of messages we share and forward on WhatsApp and other social media platforms. Almost every week, someone or the other will send me a message, and I'll ask them, did you verify it? And they will reply, no, but it came from another Muslim, so it must be true. Then the same person, after sending it out to hundreds of contacts, will send us all a message 1 hour later saying, sorry, the message I sent earlier is fake and I only learned about that now. And by then it's already reached thousands of people. And that same person will repeat the same mistake 1 week later. And another week later. And then the same false message that went out in 2008 via email goes out in 2017 via WhatsApp as if it is breaking news. What's going on in our communities? What's going on is that we are reactionary and we are very emotional. So if someone sends us a message saying that a certain Muslim restaurant is haram, without even thinking, we forward it to everybody on our contact list, while all we had to do was pick up the phone that restaurant, or better yet, go there, visit it, meet the owner, and ask them if it's true or not. 90% of the time it's lies. 90% of the time, that message was made by a competitor who wants people not to go to his competition's business. But instead of verifying, we send out messages. We damage people's reputations. We damage people's business. We damage people's lives because we're very quick to press the forward button without verifying. So Allah commands us in the Quran, فَتَبَيَّنُوا, verify it. Is it true? This goes for the sharing of hadith as well. There are so many WhatsApp messages and emails and Facebook messages going around that are full of fabricated hadiths. Do we not understand that sharing a fabricated hadith is lying against the Prophet ﷺ? It is a major sin. It is a kaba'ir to lie about what the Prophet ﷺ said. You get a hadith. Ask your local Maulana or Sheikh, is this hadith authentic? That's all you've got to do. And they will inform you. And then you can decide whether you should forward it or not. So verify. Whether it's information about a local business, whether it's news about global politics, whether it's information about somebody else's honor, whether it's a hadith, whether it's a fatwa, whatever it is, before you press forward, verify it. And if you are too lazy to verify it, then be even more lazy to forward it. Don't forward it at all. Because it is better not to send out the message than to send out unverified information. So this verse is very important. I want us to take this verse and to share this to social media. Send this verse out to all your contacts, showing them that Allah has commanded you in the Quran to verify information before forwarding it. And do you know why this verse was revealed? This verse was revealed because an entire village or community was almost executed because of a false message. One of the Sahaba was supposed to go and collect the zakah from a group of new Muslims who lived in a small village. They were Bedouins, they didn't understand the culture of the Muslims yet, they were still getting accustomed to Islam. And so when he was approaching the village, he saw some of them outside with their weapons. Now in that village, their culture was to greet people with weapons. And this man from Medina, when in their culture, if you see a group of people with weapons, you think they're coming to attack you. So when he saw this group of people with weapons, he went back and he told the Prophet ﷺ that those people have left Islam and are coming to attack us. And the Prophet ﷺ got ready to go and fight those people. And there was going to be an entire war. But Allah prevented that war by revealing this verse. He prevented a war by revealing this verse. Understand what I'm saying. This is a true incident from the life of the Prophet ﷺ. Unverified information can lead to wars. That's how serious it is. So when it comes to the messages that people are forwarding around, either verify it and only send it out when you know it is 100% true, or don't send it out at all. The next verse I want to discuss is verse number 10. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. The believers are all brothers to each other. The believers have a stronger bond to each other than your bond with your physical brother. We have the bond of Iman. Understand this, the brotherhood of faith is supposed to be stronger than the brotherhood of blood. Why? Because if you have a blood brother who is not a Muslim, and you have somebody else who is a Muslim, they both have rights over you, but the Muslim has even more rights over you. Because that's how strong the brotherhood of faith is. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ. So always reconcile and make peace when your brothers are fighting with each other. Meaning what? You see two Muslims arguing with each other, whether it's on YouTube videos, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's in your WhatsApp group, your job as their brother, the brother to both of them, Not one of them. You are brother to both of them. Your job as the brother, don't fuel the flames. Don't make things worse. Don't add spices to the stories. Don't sit back with your popcorn and watch. Aslihu bainahum. Be the one who makes peace between them. Be the voice of reason amongst them. Be the one who tells them to calm down. Be the one who tells them, let's not fight about the issue. Let's discuss it in a civilized way. And let's face it, when it comes to Muslim social media today, it's always drama. It's always fights. Someone shares a fatwa from their favorite Maulana on Facebook, and somebody else who has a different favorite Maulana with a different fatwa, he gets angry and he starts fighting with him. Why can't we respect both fatwas? They're both coming from qualified authorities. They're both the qualified ijtihad of a scholar. So why can't we respect that he came to a different conclusion than the alim that I follow? Why can't we have that respect for different fatwas? Instead, we want to fight people and call them names. And we come to that in a later verse. In the same surah, there is a prohibition of name calling. A prohibition of name calling. I want to think about the messages we send out to each other. Someone sends a fatwa we don't like, we call him a kafir. Right? Firstly, I don't think we've grasped how serious it is to call another Muslim a kafir. The Prophet ﷺ said that whoever tells his brother that you are a kafir, and it's not true, it becomes true for you. He said it becomes true for one of the two. If he's not a kafir, then you are basically doing an act of blasphemy by calling a believer a kafir. We accuse people of having hidden agendas. Oh, you're just making that fatwa because it suits your nafs. How do you know what's in his heart? Maybe he honestly believes in that fatwa. Why do we assume the worst? We get really angry with each other. And this leads to entire communities fighting each other. And then the community wants to break up. And then you want to have two masjids instead of one. And then you want to have, two separate sources of fatwas. And then you want to have two separate schools. Where does it end? Where does the breaking up end? Rather, remember, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. Every believer is your brother. If you meet someone who believes in the 5 pillars of Islam and the 6 pillars of Iman, whatever differences you have beyond that, you have to treat that individual as your brother in faith. You have to respect them as your brother. You have to love them as your brother. And when you differ with them in a way that does not break the brotherhood. You tell them, I don't agree with that opinion. It doesn't affect the fact that I love you as my brother in Islam. I just don't agree with your opinion on that specific issue. And that's okay. It's okay to disagree. What's not okay is to break the bonds of brotherhood over these disagreements. So our brothers, the believers are our brothers. And I don't think many of us have realized what that means on a daily level. In Islam, it is prohibited to break ties with your brothers, with your family. And it's also prohibited to break ties with other Muslims who are not part of your physical family. Why? Because they are your brothers in Islam. But today we break ties over every little thing. And wherever you go, there are Muslims who are boycotting this Muslim and not speaking to this person anymore. The Prophet ﷺ told us, you are not allowed to be angry with and to break up with another believer for more than 3 days. Meaning Islam gives us a 3-day cooling off period. You had a fight. That happens between brothers sometimes. You have 3 days to cool off, to ask the person for forgiveness, and to get back to being civil with each other. You don't have to be best friends. Be civil with each other. You have 3 days to do that. If you go beyond that, you are now sinful. You are now sinful for breaking the bonds of brotherhood in Islam. So be very careful about this issue. The next 3 verses all come one after the other. And they essentially list for us the prohibitions when it comes to our social interactions. So in the next 2 verses, there is a list of 6 prohibitions. Each of these apply to our interaction in person, and they apply just as much to our interactions online. Verse 11, there are 3 prohibitions. The first one is mocking someone. The second one is defamation of character. And the third one is the prohibition of calling people by nicknames that they do not like. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in verse 11 of surah Hujarat, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, O you who believe, O believers. Again, Allah is talking to us directly. He's about to make something haram for us. Meaning whatever comes next, it is in the command form, it is haram. لا يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أن يكون خيرا منهم. No people, no group of people should look down upon or mock any other group of people. Why? عسى أن يكون خيرا منهم. They may be better than you in the sight of Allah. They may be better than you in the sight of Allah. And no group of women should mock another group of women because they may be better than you in the sight of Allah. وَلَا تَلْمِزُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. And do not defame each other. Do not assassinate each other's character. Do not violate the honor of each other. وَلَا تَنَابَذُوا بِالْأَلْقَابِ. And do not call people by laqabs, by nicknames that they detest. Do not call people by nicknames that they dislike. بِئَسَ إِسْمُ الْفُسُوقُ بَعْدَ الْإِيمَانِ. How evil it is to call someone by an evil nickname after they had iman. Meaning it is evil to call a believer by a nickname that they do not like. Now there's a lot of fiqh to discuss in these 3 verses, but let's try and keep it as simple as possible. The first part of the verse, it says we should not mock or look down upon anyone. There's 2 different tafsirs of what's meant by la yaskhar qawmun min qawmin. One tafsir is you should not mock anyone. Right? What's mockery? Mockery is where you laugh at people. You say, for example, maybe someone doesn't know Islam, right? And they post something which is wrong. And then you post a comment, ha ha ha, you're so stupid. That's mocking people, that's haram. That's completely haram. Right? To talk to a person in that way. That's called mocking. The other meaning of la yaskar qawmin min qawmin is nobody should look down upon anyone else. Meaning, a believer should not think, ana khayrun minhu, I'm better than him. That thought should not enter our minds. Do you know who was the first person to say that? The first person to say, ana khayrun minhu? Shaitan. That's the sunnah of shaitan. You see someone committing a sin, and you think, I'm better than him. Allah says, you don't know. You don't know. Asa yakuna khayran minhu. He may be better than you. Maybe you saw him doing that one sin. You don't know all the secret good deeds he does. You don't know the tawbah he does. You don't know how hard he tries to give up that sin. You don't know his status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you have no right to think that you are better than him. At the same time, you don't know whether Allah has accepted your good deeds. You don't know if Allah has forgiven your sins. So on what basis do we decide, Ana khayran minhu, I'm better than him? Reality is nobody knows. Only on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will decide who is forgiven and who is not. So we have no basis of feeling, I am better than him, I belong to this group and he belongs to that group. I go to this masjid and he goes to that masjid. I wear this color turban and he wears that color turban. Allah is not going to judge you all by that. It's all about forgiveness or not forgiveness. And only Allah knows who is going to forgive. The Prophet ﷺ said that nobody enters paradise because of their deeds. You will only enter Jannah because of Allah's mercy. Why did he say this? Because every single human being has sins. None of us can say, I am worthy of paradise. You're only going to get there if Allah is merciful upon you. And Allah is only going to be merciful upon you if you are merciful to others. So there's no place in Islam for mocking. There's no place in Islam for looking down upon people. And this is something which has become very common in the comment section on social media. I always like to tell people that I wish I could make the comment section haram to read. Because when you read the comments Muslims write about each other, your iman gets shaken. People call each other the worst names possible. People mock each other, they laugh at each other, they degrade each other. There's no maturity in the discussion. Fine, you disagree with him, there's nothing wrong with disagreeing and stating you disagree, but do it in a mature and civilized way. There's no need for mockery when dealing with anybody else's opinions. It never makes things better, it never brings them closer to you. Nobody in the world has ever been mocked and said, wow, he's right, I need to be like him, I need to be like the guy who's mocking me. It doesn't work. It's just a very immature way to deal with other people. So nobody should mock anyone else because they may just be better than you. وَلَا تَلْمِزُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. We should not assassinate the character of anybody. This has become a major issue in recent months. That someone will post something on Facebook accusing someone of committing zina or even worse, and without verification the whole Muslim Ummah shares it and starts talking about it and starts discussing it and starts discussing the implications of it without any witnesses, without any evidence, without verification, without hearing the other person's side of the story. We just go crazy for gossip, the kind of gossip that ruins the honor of another believer. And what's also more scary than this nowadays is that the liberals, the feminists and the more modern people, they are pushing this idea that if a woman accuses a man, you have to believe her. This is what they're saying, that if you don't believe her, you're a bad person. Which means we are now in a situation where any woman can accuse any man of committing a major sin, and people have to automatically believe it. Which goes against the principle of Islam, that people are innocent until proven guilty. We are now living in a society where you are guilty until proven innocent. And entire people's reputations and jobs and dawah have been ruined just on this one wrong principle. Remember, in Islam, everybody is innocent until proven guilty. But what's happening? We see one message going out saying that this person is like this or this person did that. Instead of verifying, and we said this earlier for tabayyanu, verify. No, instead of doing that, the whole ummah discusses it as if the judgment has already been passed. Now I'm not saying in every case the person is innocent. No. There are cases without doubt where some people are guilty of major crimes against the ummah, and things need to be done about it in the right way. No doubt. But there are other cases where people are just saying things because they want to damage someone's reputation. Recently, a very famous scholar was accused of rape. And the person who accused him is an apostate, a murtad, who has an agenda against Islam. But people automatically and immediately believed her because you have to believe the woman. This is a serious issue. To just believe these things and to spread them. You know, if we have time in the future, one of the days we discuss Surah Nur, where Allah describes these kind of slander specifically, and what a major sin it is to spread this slander and to believe it. That's a whole separate issue that's covered in a separate surah altogether. And if you have time later, open Surah Nur and read the translation of that surah as well, to see how severe it is to defame the character of another Muslim. So please be careful. Do not share anything about anyone that is unverified. You can ruin people's lives. There are people sitting in jail for 10 years for crimes they did not commit. There are people who have been fired from their jobs and forced to live lives of poverty because of crimes they did not commit. I recently heard a story about a scholar of Islam in the United States of America. The director of his masjid did not like him, so he spread the slander that this imam was molesting a small girl. That imam got fired, he couldn't get a job anywhere else, he had to move away, he had to change his name, and it only came up 5 or 10 years later that the director had just made up that story to get him fired. This defamation of character is that bad. This is what it does to people. Please be careful. Remember, the Prophet ﷺ had said that there are 3 things about your fellow Muslims that are haram for you. Their blood, their wealth, and their honor. Their blood, meaning it is haram to hurt or kill anyone. Their wealth, it is haram to steal from anyone or to scam them. And we forget number 3, their honor. It is haram to defame people and assassinate their character. The Prophet ﷺ listed this in the same list as stealing and murder. It's just as serious as stealing and murder. Defamation of character. The last thing in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَنَابَذُوا بِالْأَلْقَابِ. Do not call people by offensive nicknames. Now we need to go into a bit of details here, because a lot of people misunderstand this verse. I've met a lot of people who think this verse means that to call anyone by any nickname is haram. right? And that's a complete misunderstanding, right? The word used is alqab, which is the plural of laqab. Laqab means a nickname, and even the Prophet ﷺ himself had a laqab, but his laqab was Al-Amin, the trustworthy. That's a good laqab, right? And he called the Sahaba by laqabs. He called his wife Aisha Al-Humaira, the one with red cheeks. You know? He called Abu Huraira, his name was actually Abdul Rahman ibn Sakhr. He called him Abu Huraira, the father of the kitten. That was a nickname, right? So, this idea that you're not allowed to call anyone by any nickname, that's not from Islam. It's actually the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to use beloved nicknames when talking to people who are close to him. He called Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. He called Umar al-Faruq. These are names he gave them which are not their birth names. Titles and nicknames that he addressed them by that were terms of endearment. So what this verse is prohibiting is not calling anyone by any nickname. It's prohibiting offensive nicknames. And the general principle in Islam is, that person you are calling, are they okay with that name or not? Meaning, you may have a friend who's a bit overweight, and you call him fatty. Now, is it haram to call him fatty? The fatwa is dependent on what he feels. The fatwa is dependent on what he feels. If he's okay with that nickname, and he likes it, it's permissible. If he is offended by that nickname, and we need to be honest with you about this, if he is offended by that nickname, whatever that nickname is, to call anyone by a nickname that offends them, it is haram for you to call them by that nickname. It is haram to call them by a nickname that offends them. Because this is in a prohibition form in the surah. وَلَا تَنَابَذُوا بِالْأَلْقَابِ. Do not call people by offensive nicknames. This is in a nahi tense, it is in the prohibition tense. It is haram. So the halal and haram when it comes to nicknames comes down to one simple thing. That person you are calling by that name, does he like it or not? And here I want to address especially the younger generation, the school kids. Many of us in school, we get into the habit of calling each other by nicknames. And sometimes the other person, he doesn't like it, right? But he's scared to say that because everybody in school, even the teachers, call him by that nickname. So here you have to honestly ask the person, you can tell me personally, do you like it when we call you by this name or not? And if he says no, then you need to stop calling him by that name, and you need to get the rest of the school to stop calling him by that name as well. I have seen so many people who go through their entire childhood being called by nicknames that crush their confidence, that crush their soul, that really, really make them cry when they are alone. But nobody cares, and everybody calls them by those names, and they continue to call them by that name even after they've grown up. This is not from Islam, right? We call people by their real name or by a name that they like. We do not call them by a name that is offensive to them. So if there's anyone in your life who you have a nickname for, ask them honestly whether they are okay with you calling them by that name. And if they are okay with it, continue. If they are not okay with it, stop. How does this apply to social media? You just have to go to the comment section. Right? Everybody in the comment section is kafir, deviant, Wahhabi, this, that, stupid, idiot. Nothing but offensive nicknames. When people have no argument, they turn to nicknames. They turn to offending the other person. That language has no place on the tongue or the keyboard of the believer. Right? In the past we say the tongue or the pen. Unfortunately, most of us don't use pens anymore. So on the tongue or the keyboard of the believer. Don't type things that a believer should not mention with their tongue. Because you are just as responsible to Allah for what you type as you are to Allah for what you say. Do not use offensive nicknames. If someone posts something online that you disagree with it in a mature and civilized way. There's never ever a need to call someone an idiot. There's never ever a need to call someone stupid. There's never a need for that. That's a very childish way to deal with your differences with other people. But as I said, we're not going to have enough time to go through the entire surah. And there's still 2 verses that I really need to discuss in detail. So inshallah, the next time I'm presenting the Jummah lecture at this masjid, I will continue on the same topic and go through verses 12 and 13, which deal with very, very important topics for our time. Suspicion, spying on people, prying into people's private lives, backbiting, and verse 13 dealing with racism. All of these are very, very crucial issues which are popping up all over our social media accounts, so we have to discuss them in details. I want to end with a very simple message to all of you. The Quran is a guideline for every aspect of our life. And that includes Facebook, that includes Twitter, that includes YouTube, that includes WhatsApp, that includes everything. Take the surah. Take the time to read it, to read the translation, to read the tafsir, to teach it to your families, to discuss it with your families. If you find a good video online discussing it, or a good audio online discussing it, or article online discussing it, share it. Share it with everybody you know. Get the message out there. We need the ummah to understand Surah Al-Hujarat. Because I truly believe if we understand the surah, we will solve 90% of the social problems in this ummah. May Allah grant us all the understanding of the surah and the understanding of the Quran, and put the nur of the Quran into our hearts and help us to live by it. And may He accept from us our deeds and forgive us for our faults and our mistakes. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.